We are pleased this evening to have Pastor Dan Lewis from Troy Christian Chapel with us this evening to give the invocation. And we have a special treat this evening. Once the invocation, if you would remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by the Girl Scout Troop 70969 from Morris Elementary School, who are anxiously awaiting to lead us in the pledge. But Pastor, if you could come forward, please. Good evening.
Shall we pray? Our gracious Heavenly Father, we come together as people of this community, diverse people with all kinds of differing limitations and abilities. And often we wish to appear strong, even though we know we have weaknesses. That's part of our human nature. But no matter what we have or what we show, we do know that our greatest need is to have your guidance, and we ask for that in the name of Christ. We are all in need of you, and we are grateful that you see us as your children. We ask for your blessing upon this council meeting, and we pray this in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ready, girls? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls. Thank you so much for doing that. Once again, that was the Girl Scout Troop 70969 from Morris Elementary School. Thanks for coming tonight. That's the best Pledge of Allegiance we've had this year. They can stay if they want.
That's right.
Okay, the Troy City Council meeting is now called to order. The roll call, Ms. Bittner.
Mayor Slater.
Here.
Councilmember Campbell.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Here.
Councilmember Pennington.
Here.
Councilmember Teets.
Councilman Teets had called me earlier this evening that he was going to miss the special meeting we had this evening at 6 o'clock and that he would get here as soon as he could for the 7:30 meeting. So I will move that Detroit City Council hereby excuses the absence of Councilman Teets at the special City Council meeting of March 3rd, 2014.
Support.
Moved by the chair and supported by Councilman Pennington that we excuse the absence of Councilman Teets from the special regular City Council, or from the special City Council meeting of March 3rd, 2014. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Bittner.
Mayor Slater.
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington.
Yes.
Motion passes. Our first order of business this evening are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have 4 this evening. C1 is a recognition of City Works infomercial highlighting City of Troy, introduced by Kurt Bovenseep, Superintendent of Parks, Streets, and Drains, and I see you brought somebody with you also. But good evening, Kurt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Alex Bellick. He's with the IT department.
Hi.
Well, I wish I was here to talk about snow because I know everyone wants to talk about that, but we do use this software for our snow operations. But mainly this piece of software is used to manage our infrastructure, our assets, what we have in the ground, and so forth. CityWorks is the provider of that software, and once a year they highlight city within the United States on the innovative ways they're using the software, and the City of Troy was selected to be highlighted this past year, and they developed an infomercial, and we'd like to present that tonight.
Great.
The City of Troy is excited about the use of CityWorks in the future. Infrastructure makes up almost 80% of your city. That's crucial to manage. CityWorks makes it so easy to manage an infrastructure. The City of Troy has over $330 million worth of infrastructure. That's important. We have to manage that. From an infrastructure standpoint and maintaining the infrastructure, it was important to us to become GIS-centric. And the fact that we wanted to spatially represent those assets, not just on a map, but when we use that map for creating service requests or work orders, we can actually identify where those assets are.
Every fall, we need to remove the water from the fire hydrants. The water department creates work orders for all of our fire hydrants, and a public works employee will go out and they will pump down the fire hydrants, and at that time they will close out the work order, but also they use it as an opportunity to inspect the fire hydrants, and if there are any other activities that they recognize that need to be done, they'll create another additional work order.
Before CityWorks, we used a lot of paper. There wasn't much work, actual paperwork and tracking being done in the field. What little field work we were doing was done by laptops, which were very costly. So what we were looking for is a streamlined software that could integrate what we're doing as far as asset management in the field and incorporating that into our asset management program at the office.
The City of Troy is exclusively a CityWorks server implementation. We leverage CityWorks within the Public Works Department as well as engineering, code enforcement, and the fire department.
We had a lot of issues with people saying, I've written it up 10 times, but we had no record of ever getting that work order. I can take the iPad out to the station, out to the buildings, and have the work order right in front of me, make comments, close it out if needed, or forward it on to those people that need to get the work order as well. So it's made it a much more efficient way of using CityWorks.
The City of Troy has tangible savings using CityWorks with the contract module. When we instituted CityWorks in the contracts module for our sidewalk program, we increased our revenue by about 15%.
Every year, the city goes through and inspects sidewalks, and just this year alone, we've generated over 400 work orders for sidewalk replacement. On any one of those work orders, there's 3 to 4 individual items on there that we're tracking. Some of these items are city costs, some of them are citizen responsibilities, but all of these are tracked within CityWorks.
CityWorks takes everyone's data and puts it at one place, so it increases the lines of communication between the different departments and divisions. No longer does one person hold on to that information. It's accessible by any person in any department in any division.
We leverage CityWorks for our CCTV sewer operation. We connect to CityWorks directly from the truck and import in work order information directly into the FlexiData CCTV software. Once the inspection is performed, then they import the inspection back into CityWorks at the end of the day.
With CityWorks, now that's being recorded directly into the field in real time. So our constituents now are notified almost immediately after the concern has been addressed.
Another area where we're leveraging CityWorks is in our forestry operation. A citizen will call the city and report a downed branch or a fallen tree. The Public Works Department will take down that service request. We will send an inspector out. If the issue warrants a work order, he'll generate a work order out in the field. That work order gets added to a portal that our forestry contractor can access. They can log in to that portal, and once the work is performed, they can actually close out the work order, saving tremendous amounts of time in the process.
CityWorks is a key piece of our strategy to mobilize our workforce to provide better service to our citizens. So that sums it up in a nutshell. And just Alex and I have also been invited in late May to go out to Salt Lake City, Utah, where CityWorks is based, and also present some of our innovative ideas on using the software. So we're looking forward to that as well.
Great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I use it quite often to look at where the snow snow removal is going on, you know, and gives you the time that you're out there in the field, and then it certainly helps me know when you're going to be in my neighborhood and when my snow is going to get plowed. So thanks for making us look good again. Thank you. Our next order of business is C2, the Troy Youth Assistance Presentation by Chair Robin Beltramini to promote dollars for education. Good evening, Robin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor, members of council, administration, you've all been contacted by me personally one way or another, but
Yes.
I still feel the need. In 2010, when the city decided that they would no longer financially support the support systems within the city, Troy Youth Assistance, as well as some others, was forced to find a way to fund ourselves. And we still had the support of the school district for our office space and those needs. We still had the caseworker sponsored and paid for by the county. The county took over the coordination of mentoring services. But the programming and our own office staff and our insurance and our kids' programs needed to be funded by us. So we searched for a fundraiser that would tie into our mission, which is supporting youth and families and through a strengthened community. Most kids in Troy go on to higher education of some sort, be it a trade school, a culinary school, a college, a community college. Therefore, we chose the Dollars for Education fundraiser. And originally the tickets were $50, and the first year we gave the winner over $10,000. The tickets this year, given the world and the situation that we all are in, are $25 a piece. Unlike previous years, the tickets are limited to a sellout number, 500 tickets this year. The prizes are also set, so it is not dependent upon what we sell. $4,000 is the first prize to be put into an MESP 529 account. If you want cash, you will get a little less because it's dollars for education, not dollars for the checkbook. And a 529 account was chosen because it can be used for a trade school, a college, and it can be used for a myriad of things beyond tuition. It can be used for equipment. It can be used in some cases for transportation, as well as other higher education expenses. So it's a flexible account for most families. So we will be selling these at all occasions when you see any of our board members until we sell out. We will draw the winning ticket, our youth recognition event, April 16th at Troy High School. We hope that you all will join us there. We are honoring about 80 youth this year for self-motivated good things in the community. The event will start at 7 o'clock. We'll honor the youth first, and then we'll draw the winning tickets. $4,000 first prize and 2 secondary prizes of $1,000 each. In other news, Trends, Friends, and Fatal Ends is a parenting program that will be taking place at the Fire and Police Training Center on March 26th. We charge a nominal fee for that, but it does talk about risky behaviors that parents may or may not be aware of and how kids find access to the how-tos of these behaviors. We will also be targeting a smartphone program for the parents of 5th and 6th graders. It seems that in Troy, a cell phone is a rite of passage to middle school these days. And very often that's a smartphone. And giving an 11-year-old a smartphone, if that's what you want to do, you probably ought to know where it can go and what restrictions you can put on it. And so that's how that program will be structured. I would appreciate it if you would spread this word throughout the community. And I understand, I'll see you again at budget time. So it is time. We are in danger, and I will just say that to you. But I do appreciate your support in this effort and in others throughout the year. You've been very helpful. Thank you, all of you. Questions?
Questions?
As a personal note, I need to tell you how much fun it is to be sandwiched between our very efficient public works departments. I mean, and having just heard on the radio that part of Detroit's financial problem stems from this department having a project 2 doors down from this department, 3 doors down from that department, the efficiency of that City Works system saves us so much money. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Robin. And I'll see you April 16th, and we'll see you during the budget discussions also. Thank you. Thanks for all you do. C3 is the Elite Fleet Award for the City of Troy Fleet Division, the 100 Best Fleets in North America, and ASE Blue Seal of Excellence designation of the City of Troy Fleet Division. And if I could, I'd ask Sam Lamarato, the Superintendent of Fleet Maintenance, to come forward, and I'd be honored to present 2 plaques to our worthy Fleets Division. No, that'd be good. Okay. How about here? We're working on changing the setup here so that it's not so awkward. Let me get the first award. I'm going to read, if I could, what this award encompasses, and once you hear this, it's really incredible how year after year our fleet division just is the best of the best. But this particular award recognizes the City of Troy as the 2013 Elite Fleet, and do we want Tim to be up here too, or are we going to just, no?
I appreciate it, but this is really an award.
Thank you. If I could read this to everyone. The Elite Fleet Award 2013 is awarded to the Troy's Fleet Maintenance Division. The elite fleets are the best of the best, and only 1 fleet per year is added to the ranks of elite fleets. This prestigious award is given to the #1 fleet winners from the previous 4 years, as long as they are still maintaining the highest standards in the fleet. So that's an incredible accomplishment, and it's really my honor to present this to Sam on behalf of all of the hard workers with Troy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And this is another great award. City of Troy Fleet Division meets the criteria established by the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence and is hereby awarded the Blue Seal of Excellence. And the City of Troy's Fleet Maintenance Division once again met the Blue Seal of Excellence recognition program standards established by the National Institute for Automotive Services Excellence, which is ASE. The City of Troy's Fleet Division is the only municipality in the state of Michigan that met the criteria to be recognized in the Blue Seal recognition program. So once again, thank you so much for all you do in representing our city. Congratulations to everyone. Sam, do you want to introduce who you have here this evening and The mic is yours.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening. I would like to introduce just a portion of the fleet staff here. We have our two fleet supervisors, if you would like to turn around. Joe Lagarde and Dave Kopecki, both veterans of the fleet operation. Joe has a mere, I believe, 38 years with the city fleet, and Dave is a 10-year veteran, 10-plus years veteran. We also have Greg Norman and Matt Collins. Greg has approximately 5 years with the Fleet Division, and Matt, 10 years. We have Kevin Heckman and Ken Zabek with the fleet. We have about 14 months right now with our fleet operation and enjoying every day of it. These technicians in front of you are all Master ASE certified technicians, some holding double masters. That's very, very difficult to accomplish, and these gentlemen stepped up to the task and passed the test. We as employees of the City of Troy's Fleet Division take pride in our work. Our goal is to instill a sense of confidence that Troy's fleet is ready to serve our city departments, our residents, and our business owners. And with that, we thank you for your confidence. And council, our fleet technicians and supervisors have a little presentation for you.
Cool. Oh, thank you. I'll give one. Nice work. Nice work.
Thank you.
He's going to be here late. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's cool. Thank you, guys. Ball marker.
And congratulations to you guys.
Welcome.
Yeah, there you go. Nice to meet you.
Congratulations.
Great job. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Great job. Joe, congratulations. Thank you so much. 34 big ones. Congratulations.
Sam, that'll come out handy in the golf course. That's a good ball marker.
Good work, buddy.
Yeah.
Great job. Yeah, buddy.
That's cool.
You've resorted to gift giving. You've resorted to gift giving. That's all right, buddy. No worries. No worries, guys. It's all right. No worries. That's right. That's all right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Welcome.
That is so cool. Once again, thank you so much. The next order of business is C4, which is Pure Troy. Mowing maintenance presentation introduced by Paul Evans, our zoning compliance specialist. Good evening, Paul.
Mayor Slater. Pure Troy. On September 9th of last year, I presented a similar presentation to council at their study session, and I talked about grass cutting and sidewalk snow removal. At that time, there was a strong emphasis on snow removal from sidewalks in the public right-of-way. Well, this presentation, I'm going to focus on mowing.
Thank you.
I want to talk about three things tonight. First of all, I want to talk about snow versus grass and the differences, other than the most obvious thing that we're experiencing at this time of year. I'm going to dial back to the September study session because the council asked staff to look at 4 things in our consideration for perhaps how we might want to proceed with grass, and then I'm going to suggest some recommended changes. So the first thing I want to talk about is grass versus sidewalk snow removal. And I think the key thing here, at least something that we heard as a result of our study session in September and that we hear sometimes about snow, is difficult access. And with snow, it was residential parcels that backed up to main roads, and they're required to remove the snow from those sidewalks along those main roads. Well, for people inside the subdivision, that would be very difficult with access. They'd either have to take their snow removal equipment through the backyard, maybe try to go through a gate if there was a fence there, and especially with this winter, there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. The other option is to go several houses down, go up the side street and hope that your neighbors plow the sidewalk so you can get to yours, especially if you're in the middle of a block. Now with grass, we don't really have the same access degree of difficulty. When you're mowing your backyard or your yard that's adjacent to a right-of-way, essentially you can keep going. The grass doesn't stop at the property line. There aren't certain conditions that'll keep you from stopping to mow at the property line. Occasionally there could be a fence maybe, but people can install gates and they have. So the main difference is that the degree of difficulty for snow is not the same as grass. Now, a couple other points with grass. When you have the lack of grass mowing, we find that it extends to the entire property, not just the right-of-way. Now, with the snow removal, we were talking about all the public sidewalks in the right-of-way, so there's more of an area to take care of. So as staff, what we decided to do was examine mowing for the entire property, not just exclusively the right-of-way, because it's not really a condition unique to the right-of-way. So that's what we did. So from the September study session, council had 4 things that they wanted us to consider. The first one was, what is Troy's current standard for tall grass and weeds? And that's established in Chapter 82 of the City Code, Property Maintenance. And what it says is that turf grass or weeds that exceed 10 inches in height, that's a nuisance. So you can't have that anywhere in the city. Now, 10 weed species are exempt from that height requirement. So if you have poison ivy, for example, you can't have that. There's 9 other species. Now, one of the weed species that's not exempt from the height requirement is dandelions, and I'll talk about that a little later in my recommendation. Now, some other exemptions that are in the Property Maintenance Code are for preservation or restoration areas that don't contain weeds or turf grass, and a preservation or restoration area is land managed to preserve native Michigan vegetation. Another exception are wetland or preservation areas as established by the Department of Natural Resources or the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. And finally, we have an exception in the Property Maintenance Code for crops, gardens, flower beds. So those areas are exempt from that height requirement as well. Now, there's also an administrative exception that we've implemented over the years, primarily for safety. And what we've done, consistent with the DPW procedure, is not require private property owners to cut areas with a slope steeper than 4:1, and this is primarily for safety. Even if someone were to call a contractor, we're talking things like ditches, maybe some steep berms. Most contractors that residents are going to call aren't going to have this specialized equipment that might, say, stick a blade out of the side of a 4-wheel vehicle off the road and cut a ditch that the county does, for example. So for safety, we impose that exemption as well. Another thing council asked us to look at, what do other communities do for their height requirements? Now, we surveyed 9 communities, including all of our neighbors. Troy's height is 10 inches. Most of the communities, including all our neighbors, except Madison Heights, are at 8 inches. As a matter of fact, 7 out of the 9 we surveyed say that if your grass is shorter than Troy's 8 inches, that's a nuisance and can't be. Another question that council had for us to look at from the study session was, how tall is the grass when code enforcement gets these phone calls? Now, we don't track how tall it is, but talking to the inspectors, they estimate the vast majority are at 10 inches or higher when we get the calls. So the grass is pretty tall when people call us. And the final thing that council asked us to look at were the number of violations in the city for the year 2013 by property class. And as you can see from the overhead, there are 706 tall grass violations in Troy last growing season. Now, the vast majority of those, 487, were single-family residential. Another 147 were vacant property, but we estimate the majority of those as well were zoned single-family. So the vast, vast majority of the tall grass conditions are located in our single-family residential districts. And this map, every orange dot you see on this map indicates a property that had a violation. Now, if we just compare the number of violations to the number of properties, that map might suggest it's a lot. It's only 0.24%, and the actual number is even less because some of the violations occurred multiple times on a property. Say you have a foreclosed home in a neighborhood, there might be a couple violations throughout the year. So where do we go from there? The final thing I want to talk about is recommended changes, and these would be recommended changes to Chapter 82, the Property Maintenance Code. And the first thing we want to recommend is to reduce the maximum height threshold from 10 inches that we have now to 8 inches. There's a few reasons for that. As I indicated earlier, most of our violations in our single-family areas. So we want to protect these areas. We find that regularly maintained grass is kept well under 8 inches. So 8 inches is a significant deviation from what you would normally see anywhere in Troy. And I would opine that most people cut the grass and keep it well below 8 inches, not because the city inspector says they have to, but simply because that's what we want. It's the right thing for Troy. The 8-inch recommended standard is consistent with other communities in our area. Now, I talked about dandelions earlier. Any lower would require people to cut these fast-growing dandelions in the spring. We see these things pop up within days, 6 to 8 inches. So we want to make sure that we don't go recommend too low, because we can have unintended consequences. We would recommend that we continue to allow preservation or restoration areas to exceed the height limit. There's going to be no suggested change there. Another benefit of having the lower height limit would to allow earlier city intervention. When the city gets a complaint, there's an inspection, a written notice, a reinspection, and if necessary, we'll request a contractor to cut the property. That could take up to 20 days. That would be after it's hit the threshold. So you can guess that the person cutting their lawn on a weekly basis, they're going to have to deal with that for at least 20 days if it's the first violation that the city becomes aware of at their neighbor's house. The big reason, improve aesthetics and safety. I don't know anyone who would not want to cut their grass. I think it's just a Troy standard, and we've had the established height standard for a long time. So I think by lowering it, it's just going to be beneficial for our neighborhoods. There's a couple other recommended language changes in the property maintenance code, and these are just procedural issues. Right now, it would transfer some responsibility from the Public Works Director to the Planning Director. The Code Enforcement Division is within the Planning Department. We would also add some language to clearly allow agents of the city, such as our contractor, to enter the property to abate violation. The word agent isn't in there. It seems to be working well as it is. And then the final thing we want to suggest is that council consider that the language modify common cutting areas to include the word entities, maybe a subdivision association that owns a retention pond or some other park area. Right now the code talks about persons, but not entities. So those are the recommended changes that we'd like to propose to council for future action. And if I'm all through, if anybody has any questions or comments.
Questions for Mr. Evans? Good. No, I think those are the areas that the City Council asked to have clarifications, and I certainly support moving it from 10 to 8. I get emails in the summertime, and it's very frustrating to live next door to a foreclosed house or someone that doesn't maintain their, and they're frustrated with how long it takes to come out there. So I think this should help.
Okay, well, we expect to have proposed language for you at the next council meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no carryover items this evening, so we will move to public hearings. I believe we have 5 public hearings this evening. E1 is our first public hearing, a liquor violation hearing. Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, LLC, DBA Ocean Prime. I see Assistant City Attorney Susan Lancaster here this evening.
Good evening.
Let me open the public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is our annual liquor violation hearing review. Real briefly, I'm sure you've read the memo, but every year licenses renew automatically. When we have violations in the city, we like to bring it to your attention. You have the authority under state law to terminate or ask that the Michigan Liquor Control Commission terminate, revoke a license if you feel that the action in fact affects the public health, safety, welfare. So what we are doing tonight is we're presenting the two what are known as on-premises, 2 restaurants, and 2 off-premises. In this case, they're both drugstores. I do want to make a broad statement for all the items that are up tonight, except for Manjin Lao is here for review, but the first 4 items, 01 through 04, I have made a contact with everyone on those particular items. It's my understanding, even though they're entitled to a hearing with the decoy and the officers that did the sale to minors, that orchestrated it, they're allowed to have a hearing before this board. Each of them have waived their right to a hearing and will stipulate that in fact there was a sale to a minor, a person under the age of 21. So that will eliminate some of the need for a hearing tonight. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sure they will correct me. So if I could move ahead to 01, which is Cameron Mitchell Restaurants doing business as Ocean Prime. Basically, this involves an operation where a under 21-year-old decoy went into Ocean Prime, sat at the bar, and asked for a bottle of beer. The male bartender gave him a bottle of beer. That happened on November 7th at about 3:10 in the afternoon. That bartender was ticketed. Our records show that he pled guilty, and our local court are responsible. It's a civil infraction under state law, paid a $100 fine. The MLCC does review these for violations, and in this particular case, because it was a November violation, there has not been a decision by the Liquor Control Commission on this issue yet. Mr. Carlin, the attorney for Ocean Prime, is going to speak to you in a minute. However, I do wish to tell you that the records that were given to you with the list of violations in the past, records start running from May 31st of 2008. There's been 1 previous violation for sale to a minor, and that was on December 30th of 2008. There have been none since then. So out of 15 compliant tests, which are other sale to decoys, where a decoy will go in an underage without identification and ask to be served, he was rejected and sent away on those other occasions. There have been 29 liquor inspections, and those are for things like if everything's properly placed. They're not really looking for sales to minors. They're looking for things like whether the liquor is properly housed and whether or not they meet the state standards. They passed all 29 liquor inspections. So with the council's permission, I think Mr. Carlin would like to address you about and answer any questions you may have. The bottom line is that after you hear Mr. Carlin, you'll be entitled to make a resolution as to how to handle this particular matter. Mr. Carlin, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. I'm John Carlin, the attorney for the restaurant, Cameron Mitchell Restaurants, and to my right is Greg Sage, who's the general manager of the restaurant. The reason that she hasn't had any result from a hearing is because we waived the hearing at the Liquor Commission, acknowledged the violation, and we're paying a $600 fine. So the matter is pretty much wrapped up. As she indicated, the Assistant Attorney General did, this is the second violation, but we have done quite a few of the past buys, and we do want to thank you for letting us know that we do that, because Greg will tell you they go back to the employee and thank them for doing so. In this case, the employee was well, shall I say, about a 50-year-old guy who's been there for a long time, and just said that the way the guy looked and talked and everything else, and he was almost 20. He thought he was 21 and made the mistake. He did admit the responsibility to the violation. We're here to, Greg tells me that all of the employees, with one exception, that serve alcoholic beverages are trained and certified. So if there's anything else, we apologize for the violation. We wish it hadn't occurred, but it did. And I think that our record shows that we're pretty responsible. Greg, you got anything you want to add?
I agree. Definitely apologetic to the council and to the city for that. We do take it very seriously, and as Mr. Carlin has said, all but one are certified within about 3 months of that violation. And we will get the other one certified within the next coming weeks.
Any questions? City Attorney's Office or Mr. Carlin? I have to assume that you did not fire the employee because you didn't say you fired the employee.
That's correct.
And
Long-time employee, been very responsible, and actually, he's kind of
could you speak into the microphone, please?
he's kind of a leader because of his age, and some of the others are younger, and Greg told, I happen to be over there a lot, and Greg tells me that he uses him to remind others that it's easy to make a mistake. So we think that having him there at that age is better. So we did not fire him.
Because typically this council does like to see the responsible party terminated, but we have taken exception to that, and this is one of those areas that we have taken exception to. In the resolution, if it does pass, it does speak about 90 days getting training records to council to prove that everyone has been trained.
I've already told him that, so
Yes.
we'll get that to him. Not a problem.
Any other questions from council? We appreciate you taking responsibility for this. Hopefully we won't see you here again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Did the City Attorney's Office wish to say anything further?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think Mr. Carlin's summarized it, and unless you have any questions about any of the documentation that was submitted to you.
I think we're good, thank you. Okay. I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for a resolution.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
I'd like to move the resolution as printed. E1. Support.
By Mayor Pro Tem Henderson and supported by Councilman Campbell, that we approve E1 as printed. Discussion?
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
In our discussions, we, maybe I can direct this to the city attorney, but the training that they have to do is different now than it was last year when we went through these. Is that correct? And maybe can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Mayor, if I may, this is, previously in our past resolutions, we've specifically referred to TIPS and TAMS training, but this resolution is slightly modified, and it basically refers to server training, as that term is defined under state law. So there is a new state law that defines server training, and we've incorporated that language into the proposed resolution.
Anything else from council? The resolution does indicate that within 90 days, we will be notified of the training of all those that serve at the restaurant. The vote, Ms. Bittner?
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes. Motion passes. Good luck on that one. Hope we don't see them again. Thank you. E2 is a liquor violation hearing. Full Service Dining, Inc., DBA Papa Vino's Italian Kitchen. And I will once again open the public hearing and welcome Assistant City Attorney Lancaster.
Again, thank you, Mayor and council members. This also is a on-premise license for what's commonly called Papa Vino's. It's Full Service Dining, Inc., doing business as Papa Vino's. This is also a decoy operation with our directed patrol unit on November the 7th of last year at about 3:40 in the afternoon. Our decoy, who was 19 years old, went into the restaurant The male bartender asked him what he wanted to drink. He said a beer. He was ticketed, the male bartender. He did plead responsible at our local court, paid a fine. This particular matter has also been heard by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, who fined the parties $400. This is the first violation for this particular business. We've had records since December the 6th of 2006. They've had 26 compliance tests. This is their first failure. They've had 50 liquor inspections, and they've passed them all. And we have with us tonight Chad House, who will introduce himself to you from Papa Vino's, and he will address any questions you may have.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. House.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, would like to offer our apologies for the violation that we had this past November as well. I have been with Papa Vino's for almost 18 years now. This is my first violation dealing with this as well. So certainly like to apologize for that experience. Shortly after, I've actually been the general manager at the Troy location, and I did leave that location and I'm now the area director. Our general manager called me on that day, explained to me what happened. The employee was released from service the following day, at which point we also went back and had our managers at that particular store go through a retraining process with our staff. Currently, as that existed in our handbooks, right now our procedures are that we go through a solid half hour during the orientation process before we ever hire our employees to talk about levels of alcohol service, not just from an identification standpoint, but from all aspects of service. And then during the actual 5-day training process that they go through before they ever wait on tables, they also at that point spend a full day of the classroom going with the trainer that they're with at that time, the different ways and scenarios that can occur inside the restaurant. So at this point, we are not technically tip certified inside the restaurant, but after speaking with Sue, we have decided that within the next month, I'm actually going to go and take the certification course for the tips class at this point. And then we're going to start with our Troy location and certify all of our staff there in the tips program within that 90-day term that we had talked about when Sue and I had spoken. So that's what we're doing moving forward, and certainly would welcome any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. House? Councilman Fleming?
Yeah, the employee that had the violation and you terminated, had they had any training?
They did, sir, yes. At that point, all of our trainers, employees go through that same program. The employee did not offer any excuses as to why, other than he simply was busy at the time and did not ask for identification at that point, which was a strong determining factor in why we didn't have a long discussion as to whether he was going to continue service with us.
Any other questions for Mr. House? Well, we appreciate you taking a firm stance. This is the first violation, and is indicated before, if we do pass a resolution, you will have to provide proof of training for all employees to the police department within 90 days.
Okay.
And my conversation with you, you indicated you were going to become a trainer and be responsible for training.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Did the city attorney's office wish to add anything at this time? Thank you. I will close the public hearing and return it to the table for a resolution. Councilman Pennington.
I move that we move E2 forward as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Pennington and supported by Councilman Fleming that we approve E2 as printed. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Bidner.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Once again, I hope we don't see you here again. Thank you. E2 is a public hearing for a liquor violation. Rite Aid Discount Pharmacy, DBA Rite Aid of Michigan. evening once again, Ms. Lancaster.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. We are now moving into the off-site premises liquor licensing, and just as a notation, under Michigan law, anytime there's 3 or more violations in a 12-month period for an off-premises, the council is entitled to make a recommendation, if you so believe it's necessary to protect the public health safety, for a revocation or some type of action on the license.
Could you just?
Thank you.
We are recording, thank you.
Thank you. In terms of the Rite Aid Pharmacy, doing business as Rite Aid of Michigan, there was a decoy sent into the premises on March 20th, 2013, about 8:52 in the evening. This was again with the Directed Patrol Unit. An officer always is outside supervising. The young gentleman asked for the decoy asked for a 6-pack of beer. A female cash register allowed him to pay for that beer. He was under the age of 21. The cashier was ticketed. She pled guilty, paid a $100 fine, and the Michigan Liquor Control Commission assessed a fine of $650 for this particular action. The records on this particular Rite Aid Pharmacy start from 1966 when it was licensed. Between August the 22nd of 81 and 1999, there were 9 sales to minors out of 11 compliance tests. However, it's gotten somewhat better. From 2000 to the present, 34 compliance tests, there were sales to minors, 4 different failures, so 4 times. So for a total of 46 since 1966, 13 sales were made to minors during that time. In terms of the last one on this particular facility, it was October 27th of 2010 was the last violation for a sale to minor. There have been 63 liquor inspections, and they have passed all of those, meaning they have the liquor behind the counter where it was supposed to be under our ordinance, and also met all state requirements. Mr. Carlin is representing Rite Aid Pharmacy on this one, and I'll let him take over and address the council.
Thank you. Good evening again, Mr. Carlin.
Again, it's John Carlin appearing here on behalf of Rite Aid, and to my right is Lillian Katula, who is the general manager of the store. The record is accurate that the Assistant Attorney General did provide. The employee was terminated. Lillian indicated to me that most of the staff is trained, but there's a lot of turnover, and they have constantly an effort to catch up and keep everybody trained and controlled. The record isn't good, but it has been a couple of years now between this one and then prior to that there was 5 or 6 years before the violation, and prior to that was about 11 years. So there has been some improvement over the years. I don't want you to think that this is ongoing all of the time. It's not. They did, in this case, admit the responsibility, again with another negotiated settlement at the Liquor Commission, and paid the fine. So that's done. The employee was terminated. Lillian tells me that she goes through this every day to remind these people that they have to do the checking. And there are errors, and that's the problem. We apologize. We try to do the best we can. Any questions you might have? I did say that she was terminated, correct? Yes.
Correct. A question. I think to say that the record is bad is an understatement, but has there been a change of ownership in those years at all? No, same owner? Do they have anything in place where they have to put a birth date into the register in order to sell alcohol like there is at the 7-Eleven store?
Yes, there is.
And you're still having a problem?
I mean, I've walked through it. I know they must be typing their own birth date in because they don't ask me for mine. So I think that's part of the problem, that the employees just aren't following the instructions and what they're supposed to.
I understand that, and, you know, the business is at the mercy of the people that work there, so, but when you have things in place that are supposed to take care of the problems of giving alcohol to minors, some responsibility does have to fall onto the management of the people.
This is, I'm willing to say that she's been there, what, almost 2 years, and this is the first one for her. So I think I'm hoping that we talked a little bit before the meeting, so because she didn't really know what was going to happen tonight. She was a little afraid that she was going to get fined, but I did explain to her what how the concern is for the council, because I've been in front of you many times. So
right.
I did explain it, and I think she understands that she's got the responsibility to try not to be back here again.
Well, we do have the director of the Troy Community Coalition here this evening. You might want to just meet with them and talk to them, and maybe they can give you some insight and some information as to how to do a better job. You understand that if we do pass this resolution, you will have 90 days to get everybody certified and get the results of that to the police department?
Yeah, I explained that to her ahead of time.
Any other questions? Councilman Fleming.
Yes, do you have your own decoy program? In other words, we have the police come in with a decoy. We know if they catch you violating one, it happens multiple times. But do you have your own decoy program in place where you check yourself?
No, we don't.
Again, Mayor's suggested you meet with someone in the audience here, but that may be a suggestion. You consider your own program, your own audit your own self.
Okay.
I can suggest that to ownership.
I think you should do that, especially if you have a large turnover. Sometimes it's good to implement as many safeguards as you can so that you're not here again, because if you don't come back here again, at least while I'm here, I won't be passing this resolution. Any other questions? Councilman Pennington.
Had the employee that had the violation, had that employee gone through the training, or was that one of the employees that had been not trained yet?
They go through a training, yes. She did go through a training.
Okay.
But she was kind of like a person that, I don't know how to describe her. She was always, like scared to say no.
Well, I guess if you recognize that, she shouldn't work the counter.
I recognized that afterwards.
Okay.
After I hired her.
Any other questions? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? We'll close the public hearing and return it to the table for resolution.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
I'd like to move item E3 as printed.
Maybe we should read the resolution so that the audience knows exactly what we're doing, because part of this resolution has to be that we have been persuaded that the violation did occur. And maybe if we could just read one, and then we won't have to do that again. But maybe for the audience, we should at least do one.
Glad I brought my glasses. Whereas the City of Troy scheduled a hearing as allowed under state law and the City of Troy ordinances, Chapter 101, and also the liquor license agreement between the licensee and the city to review the following alleged violation: Rite Aid Discount Pharmacy, doing business as Rite Aid of Michigan, addressed 2971 West Maple Road in Troy, Michigan, license number 10077-2012-S, 497802012S, violation sale to minor, compliance test on March 20th, 2013. Whereas after due notice, the licensee was given the opportunity to review this cited infraction and an opportunity to confront witnesses and/or statements of accusers while in the presence of this City Council, sitting as a hearing body on Monday, March 3rd, 2014. Now therefore be it resolved that as a result of this hearing, the Troy City Council has been persuaded that the alleged violation did occur as set forth above, and be it further resolved that due to the violation at the licensed establishment, the Troy City Council, after due notice, appropriate hearing, and deliberations, recommends renewal of the off-premises liquor license for the 2014 license year, with the stipulation that all serving employees successfully complete a server training program as defined under state law MCL 436.1906 within 90 days of today's date, and that immediately upon completion, licensee shall submit proof of the successful completion of the server training program to the Troy Police Department. And be it further resolved that if the licensee fails to comply with this condition within 120 days, then licensee shall appear before the Troy City Council after due notice, and that the licensee's failure to comply with the server training condition could serve as a basis for the Troy City Council to take adverse action against the licensee's liquor license. Be it finally resolved that a certified copy of this resolution shall be sent to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission.
Thank you. We have support.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson and supported by Councilman Fleming that we approve E3 as printed and read by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Discussion. Vote, Ms. Bittner.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
No.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck, and I hope we don't see you back here again. Thank you. E4 is another liquor violation hearing for Woodward Detroit CVS, DBA CVS Pharmacy, number 8162. I will open the public hearing and welcome back Ms. Lancaster.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Mr. Mayor, this one is also an off-premise. This is Woodward Detroit CVS, DBA CVS Pharmacy on West South Boulevard, 2045 West South. On November the 7th of last year at approximately 9:30 p.m., a decoy entered into, under the age of 21, entered into the pharmacy, or excuse me, the CVS, brought a six-pack of Mike's Hard Lemonade to the cashier, who was also an assistant manager, paid for it and left with the Mike's Hard Lemonade. The cashier, on the female cashier, was ticketed. She pled responsible at the 42nd or the 52nd fourth and paid a $100 fine. Unless their representative tells me otherwise, we were unable to find a decision from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission regarding this yet. Their record, we have been keeping records since March the 14th, 1990 to the present. And there were 38 compliance checks. They have failed 5. The last failed one was May 21st of 2008. There have been 73 liquor inspections. They have passed them all. And with that, unless the council has any questions, I will ask Mr. Russ Karniak, who is here representing CVS.
Good evening. Any questions for Ms. Lancaster? Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Russell Karniak. I am counsel for CVS here in Michigan and have been their counsel for the past 20 years.
Could you move the microphone up, please?
Certainly.
It's the only way we can record. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. The reason we're here is a November 7 violation. That was the date of the sale to the minor. To clean that date up, CVS has admitted responsibility for the violation on that date. They paid a $650 settlement. There were no other or additional penalties assessed to CVS as a result of that violation. And the employee who made the sale to the decoy was terminated. And that is really consistent with CVS policies really across the board. As Ms. Lancaster pointed out, the last violation was back in May of 2008. In terms of compliance, between the May 2008 date and the most recent violation in November, there were 7 sting operations that were conducted. at this location. CVS passed all of them. They all appear to be Troy Police Department stings. There had to have been, in that same time period, Michigan Liquor Control Commission stings. They're not documented. Sometimes those get on the record, sometimes they don't. We also believe that there was a recent tobacco sting, and we believe we passed that, although we don't have any particular documentation of that. I have visited this particular store location. I've met with the store manager. I have the district manager, John Paul Gorinsky, with me today if there are questions. There are 6 registers at the location. They put in play 4 registers. They have prompts. Mayor, I think you asked a prior licensee about prompts. There is a date of birth that is required to approve a sale of alcohol. Unfortunately, in this particular instance, what got in the way of what is otherwise a pretty good system at this location was that no identification was requested. And that is really the bane of my existence for 20 years with this licensee and others. When we don't ask, we don't have a chance. So and if we go to a policy where we identify below an age date or what the clerk perceives as an age range, that can be problematic because we're putting that in the clerk's hands. If we go to a ID everybody, we get some elderly customers like myself at 55 upset because I just want to move along and get home or whatever it is I have to do. So it can be a no-win. We encourage the employees, of course, to make a good inspection of the person that's buying the alcohol and ask them to make a definitive move in terms of requesting ID. What we've done here, we've got the prompts in, as I've indicated. That's the safeguard. We now have reminders posted at each of the 4 registers. The store manager has undertaken retraining one-on-one with each of the employees. Those would include the employees who would be on the register or could be called upon to be on the register. They have also instituted frequent reminders and huddles. When there's a shift change, they get together with the employees that are leaving and get together with the employees that are coming on shift and remind them of the alcohol policies and tobacco policies, of course. CVS does not make it its business to sell to minors. We're publicly traded. I have had, at every instance when I've been in front of the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, I have asked the arresting officers or the agency representative from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission if this is a complaint, or is this just an operation, part of their regular sting? In other words, what I want to be on notice of, and of course my client wants to be on notice of, if that store is selling, and that's a complaint, we got a complaint from a mom or a dad or somebody in the community, we want to know that. I'm happy to report that in literally hundreds and hundreds of violations over the years, and that sounds like a lot, but we have 230 some units in the state, so it really isn't that many. I always ask, and I've never had anyone tell me that they had received a specific complaint that we're out there selling. It's just a convenience we offer as part of the CVS store, and it's just not something we get into. I'm here for questions. Again, I have my district manager with me if you have any questions for him.
Thank you. Appreciate all the proactive you've done since the violation, personally. Thanks. Any questions? Councilman Campbell?
Is this a 24-hour store?
Good.
No, it's not. No, it's not?
If you could come to the microphone, please.
No, it's not a 24-hour location.
Just as a clarification for me, if you have the device on the registers that you have to punch in a date of birth, and you don't ask for a date of birth, then you have to falsify that, I assume, to be able to ring up an alcoholic sale. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so whoever did this just made one up.
Yeah, she failed to ask the customer for their identification and put a false date of birth that put them over the age of 21 years old and completed the sale.
Okay. Councilman Pennington.
Did you say the employee was an assistant manager at the time?
She was a shift supervisor,
Oh.
so kind of like an assistant manager, but, entry-level management.
Oh, okay.
And you understand if we do pass this resolution, within 90 days, you have to provide proof to the police department of training of all employees?
We understand.
We understand.
Councilman Fleming.
Same question as I asked the previous persons. Do you do your own decoy sting operations as part of your training?
We do not currently have that in place. If there are individual stores, I don't believe this store has that in place. There was a time, Councilman, where we did do that. We struggled, I'm going to say 2002 to 2005, principally in certain communities where the sting operations were vigorous. So we did go to our own sting operation in-house for quite some time period. We've gone on, and I think I can tell the entire council here that we've done just a much better job since that 2005 time period, really across the board in all the communities. The number of violations is just significantly less. And so I think they've eliminated that particular procedure.
Councilman Campbell.
When your attorney was making his presentation, I was a little confused by you're making a correlation between a decoy making a buy and a parent telling you. What's the difference? I mean, the bottom line is at the end of the day, you sold something to somebody that you're not supposed to sell to, right? I would think that if a kid buys something in your store, he's not going to go home and show his parents what he bought, right? So I don't understand, is one better than the other one, or?
No, not at all.
Could you use the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. It's a further explanation, Councilman, about, really how I feel about the client, and I want you to know about my client and I think principally the great job they do. We don't want to sell to kids. That's just something CVS is not known for, and I wanted you to know that. That's the question and answer I have with the police departments that I appear with at different MLCC hearings and the MLCC investigators. I just want you to know that I think that's something we should be proud of. If the kids, again, I know they're not buying it and running home to tell mom and dad, but I've had some friends catch their kids, and when they do, they want to know, where did you buy it? And that's not coming back. It's something that CVS is doing. We don't have that reputation, and I want you to know that. When they do buy, I mean, you have evidence that the store has been caught on several occasions, but there have been long periods between and great periods of compliance with these controlled buys that have been documented. And as someone mentioned earlier, we appreciate the fact that the city lets us know, or lets the MLCC know, that when we pass. That really does help us as well.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
For the district manager, how long has the store manager been employed at that location?
She's been the manager of that location for more than 4 years.
Okay. I like to see the store managers, the on-premise responsible party at these things, typically just because I think it's more impactful for them. So what kind of things do you have in place to lower the boom?
What do you?
Well, how have you handled the store manager to make sure that this doesn't happen? It's easy to address the situation with a person that gets fired, but that instruction comes from a higher up position.
Yeah, the store manager notified me immediately after the sale had been completed. We suspended the employee pending our own investigation and subsequently terminated that employee. And then I had a general conversation with the store manager, holding her accountable for what her associates do in her store when she's not there or not present. And we documented that through our own records.
And I might add that she hears from me at the time of the violation. I work with her to make sure that we did make the sale, what kind of things we've done to correct that, what corrective action. And I was at the store recently before today's council hearing, so that I would know exactly the layout of the store and would meet with her again. She's had a lot of contact to know that this can't have it again.
And all the employees that work in the location did receive retraining on their next shift regarding sales and alcohol and tobacco products to minors.
Any other questions from council? Just on a personal note, I applaud CVS for their stance they're taking on sale of tobacco. I know once again, the leaders of the Troy Community Coalition are here this evening, and I know that's well appreciated from their organization as well.
Well, we think it's a great step.
I do too. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Did the city attorney's office wish to say anything further? Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and return it to the table for resolution.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
If I don't have to read it, I'd like to move E4 as printed.
I appreciate you doing that, and I would not ask you to do it again.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson, supported by Councilman Pennington, that we approve E4 as printed. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Bittner.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Councilmember Teetz?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you for being proactive, and hope we don't see you again here either. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Our next public hearing is E5, a liquor license hearing on Manjin Lao Inc., DBA Manjin Lao. And it's Lancaster, it's good that we're here for some good news.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor and council members. Just by way of brief background for the public that may be listening, a year ago, this board had Manjin Lao in front of it, not for our standard sale to a minor, but there were some other problems that had come up at Manjin Lao over the 2012 year, including some overcrowding complaints, a number of police runs for incidents involving highly intoxicated individuals, and parking issues, a number of things. So last year, Manjin Lao agreed to enter into an agreement where they would suspend all special events for 1 year except for a 2-day Chinese New Year event. They were to not have any outdoor service or use of a tent in the parking lot for a 2-year period. They had to enter into a 1-year security agreement, which they did and which has been presented to me to review. They had to modify their valet parking procedures to contain congestion and crowding, completion of a server training program of all wait staff and bartenders, and an automatic review of this agreement this year. The good news is that nothing has happened. They've complied with everything. And the only two things that we have to report is that we did have a decoy operation on June 26th of last year with our decoy was under the age of 21. He was with a female police officer, part of our directed patrol unit. They decided to go there on Shanghai Wednesday, which is the special event where women are waved to the front of the line with their dates. He was denied entrance. He didn't have a valid ID. They were also, the decoy was instructed to try and get in through the patio service because there had been some rumors that they were letting him in that way prior to the agreement, and he was denied entry that way by a security guard, someone in a black suit. Our officer from the directed patrol did go inside. She did observe there was no overcrowding. All patrons appeared to be over the age of 35. All wait staff appeared to be 45 or older. All exits and entrances were covered by staff, and no patron appeared to be overserved, so intoxicated. So that was a clean inspection. Also on October 31st of last year, there was a complaint, and I'm not sure how that complaint came into the police department, but our police department did send out officers about overcrowding, by the way. Our officers and fire department personnel out, and they found no violations overcrowded, and that's their big night for, that's when we caught them in 2012 overcrowding. So the good news is they have done everything they can to try and comply, and I believe that John Hankey is here from representing Manjin Lao, and if you care to address him, we did make this a public hearing in case any members of the public had anything they wanted to report. But Mr. Hankey, you will come up and address the board.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Hinkey.
Good evening, Mayor Slater, council members. I also have Brian Chin, one of the proprietors of Manjin Lao, with me as well. As you've heard, we've done everything we agreed to do with the city a year ago. We have made sure that any attempts to either overcrowd or approach on a Wednesday night, which is our typical Shanghai Wednesday night, to ensure that no underage people are allowed in the restaurant, as well as any other evening. So we'll continue to do that. We did agree with the city, per the agreement we reached with the mayor, that we would continue for one more year, no outdoor tent. We have determined that that's just a recipe for potential problems, so that will continue. The security agreement that's in place with our security team remains in place for, it's a year-to-year basis. They've done an exceptional job of making sure, as Ms. Lancaster indicated, to make sure that no one gets into the restaurant from either one of the outdoor dining areas or attempts to get in front without proper ID or identification of any type. So we'll continue to do that.
Questions from council? I'm happy to see the end. Is it your intent to keep the security there at this point?
Yeah, it's worked out extremely well. Brian and I have had that conversation. Manjin-Lau's always done a very good job of trying to make sure that, you know, there isn't a problem on the outdoor perimeter, especially on Wednesday nights or over the weekends. Tend to be those areas during the summer, obviously. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody's tried recently through the snow piles to get in. So,
well, thanks for what you've done to clean up a problem that was not only hurting you, but it was hurting the city's image too. So thanks for doing that. And hopefully we won't see you back here again.
This will be their 45th year in the city.
I understand. They've been a long-time partner with the city for sure. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? I don't think I opened the public hearing for that, so I will open the public hearing and ask that anyone in the audience wishes to speak, please come forward. Seeing none, I will close that public hearing. Thank you to the City Attorney's Office for what they've done, the Police Department. Hopefully someday we won't have any hearings on liquor violations. Thank you. I don't see that anyone has signed up for public comment for items on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. I don't see a need for a City Council or City Administration reply to public comment, but I will offer that if there is. There are no postponed items, so we will move to regular business unless somebody would like a break at this point. Are we good? Well, Councilman Teets?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm concerned.
First regular business is I-1 Board and Committee appointments. There are no mayoral appointments, and I will turn this portion of B over to Mayor Pro Tem Henderson for City Council appointments.
I'd like to resolve to appoint, can I do all three at once?
Yes.
To the Historic District Commission, Barbara Knight, for a term expiring March 1st, 2015. Barbara Chambers, for a term expiring March 1st, 2017. And Al Petrulis, for a term expiring March 1st, 2017.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson, supported by Councilman Fleming, that we appoint to the Historic District Commission Barbara Knight, Barbara Chambers, Al Petrulis, for the terms that expire 3/1 of 2017. Is there discussion? The vote, Ms. Bittner.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Councilmember Teets?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck to the 3 new members, or continuing members. Next item of business is I-2, Board and Committee nominations. There are no mayoral nominations, and we will take no action on City Council nominations this evening. I-3 is no request for closed session this evening. I-4, an agreement to provide fleet maintenance services, Road Commission for Oakland County, introduced by Sam Lamorato, Superintendent of Fleet Maintenance. And I see Tim Rishnick, Director of Public Works also. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Good evening once again.
As you know, several years ago, the city entered into service agreements with several local communities and agencies throughout Oakland and Macomb County. A few months ago, the Oakland County Road Commission requested that the City of Troy's Fleet Division help them out with some fleet services. They've recently reduced their technician fleet, their technicians, from 32 to 15 technicians. They have over 1,000 vehicles. 247 of those vehicles are 12-yard dump trucks that have snow removal capabilities. They also have 20 graders and 7 front-end loaders. They requested that we take on some of this responsibility because they no longer can handle all of the work. We feel that our garage would be used to capacity, as well as our technician staff would be able to handle the extra work. So with that, we are here tonight to present the agreement to you, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lamorato? And as always, the Troy Fleet will always take priority with maintenance, correct?
Yes. In our service agreement, it states that Troy's fleet is the first fleet in the door for repairs.
I'd like to just make one comment, I guess. A question that does come to me often, and you may get, if we are taking on these additional responsibilities, you know, this will be the 14th agreement that we'll be handling. With the previous agreements, what initially happened is there was a great influx of work over a period of time. But then once Sam's staff got that piece of equipment up to a high level and a high standard, that material that's coming back in is at a very slow pace. It's more of maintenance. There was a lot of what I would consider repairs to that equipment. And so when you look at the 13 agencies that we now handle, a lot of that has been reduced down to just periodic maintenance. And so at this point, that's why Sam's staff is able to bring on such a large agency as the Road Commission for Oakland County. And we get questioned all the time about getting equipment in and out. If there's ever an issue, we sit down with those folks, we go right through the process and make sure everybody understands where they stand. And that is a big question we always get to. City, Troy, facilities, and equipment and departments come absolutely first.
And this is an as-needed contract as well, so as they need assistance, we'll be there to help them.
This is going to mainly be the Troy office that the Road Commission uses?
Well, it's a good question. We approached that with the director, and it's mainly the Troy garage as well as possibly outreaching to the Lake Orion garage.
Other questions? Well, once again, we appreciate it. That revenue that comes into the city, I'm sure it helps us when we're the #1 fleet in Michigan, too. I think they probably recognize that if they bring it here, it's going to get done right. So, thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Would somebody like to move? Councilman Huderick.
Resolved that Troy City Council hereby approves the interlocal service agreement for the City of Troy to provide fleet maintenance services to the Road Commission for Oakland County. The city clerk and mayor are authorized to execute the agreements.
Support. Moved by Councilwoman Hoderick and supported by Councilman Campbell that we pass I-4 as printed. Discussion? The vote, Ms. Bittner.
Councilmember Teets?
Yes.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Motion passes. Good luck. Next item of business is the consent agenda. Is there anyone on council that wishes to pull a consent item this evening? Somebody like to move the resolution? Councilman Fleming?
Resolved that Troy City Council hereby approves all items of the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Fleming and supported by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson that we approve all items on the consent agenda as presented. Discussion. The vote, Ms. Bittner.
Mayor Slater?
Yes.
Councilmember Campbell?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Councilmember Pennington?
Yes.
Councilmember Teetz?
Yes.
Motion passes. If you were here on a consent agenda item this evening, they all passed. Next item of business is memorandums and future council agenda items. K2 is Pure Troy, as presented. Next, we will move to public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses, and I will call on Aaron Daluski, Troy resident. Good evening. If you could just raise the microphone up a little bit, thank you.
Mayor,
Good evening.
good evening. My name is Aaron Daluski. I live on Olympia, Troy, Michigan. I recently read in the Gazette that Troy is working on the city's new master plan. I'm here tonight because I want to add my input. First of all, I'm a local cyclist, a pedal-powered commuter. I'm a blogger, web developer, community activist, and an aspiring urban developer. In recent years, I spotted some serious potential in Troy and the surrounding cities, potential that's neatly tucked away from the busy roadways. To me, as a cyclist, the roads in Troy are no place for bicyclists. I often call it running with the bulls, that one small mistake could mean serious death. It's dangerous and it is stressful. There's no way to live in Troy today. And the sidewalks are no better. So I'm here tonight to say that I want to realize Troy's greenway potential. I want Troy to realize Troy's greenway potential. I believe that Troy's urban planners of yesterday saw a future tomorrow that was highlighted with green traffic, foot traffic. I believe that we are on the edge of that tomorrow. I believe that the people of today are hungry for that foot traffic in their own lives. I believe that people want something they can feel good about, and I think greenways are a way to achieve that. Again, from what I've seen, I believe that greenways are part of this city's tomorrow, and I think that we should realize that potential today. So this is me saying please and thank you, and that if you would like to reach me, I'm Aaron@troytrails.org.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm sure many share your position. Thank you. Jim Werpetinsky, Troy resident. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening. Hey, you all know that I think you do a fine job up there. If I have any complaint, it's that I'd like to see it be more proactive. Mayor, you're fairly proactive, and of course you have the Dane and Dave show, which is kind of hokey, but it's good. And then the Mayor Pro Tem, also helped us out getting the movie theater down in Maple, so that was good. But and back to the proactive. About 3 weeks ago, I had 1 minute to comment on the joint City Council Planning Committee meeting. And as I later received a communication indicated my words failed to make my point, so I'm going to try again. I thought the aforementioned meeting got into detail that would be unnecessary if council had a clear vision and goals. The issues discussed, such things as height of building issues, sign ordinances, landscaping on Big Beaver, trees. I think if council were proactive and had done some things before, those wouldn't be issues. They wouldn't have had to come up here. When I was considering running for council, I gave it a lot of thought to what I'd like to see. I had even suggested to a couple of you that the city should convene an engagement session to find out what kind of a city the residents wanted to see. From that, council could have continued on to redefine their vision and goals from the February 20th, 2011 statement, which I think only 2 of you were even around when this was done, so this should be updated, in my opinion. So my assumption would be then that an attractive place to live, like it mentions here, by definition would preclude things like 4- and 5-story buildings on Livernois or over there on Rochester Road where we have the storage thing. It also preclude things like neon and LED signs like we have at the church right up to Livernois here. And clear cutting of trees, that should be a no-brainer. And also discouraging enterprises that don't fit the Troy that I know, such as hookah lounges and stuff. And by the way, you stole my thunder earlier. I had a comment here. God bless CVS's heart for discontinuing selling cigarettes in Troy. So then you would have requested city management to create the necessary ordinances to attain the goals. You would also clearly communicate what kind of city we want to be to the planning commission, city manager, residents, businesses, etc. And you would then have a starting point to update the 5-year-old master plan. So yes, I would like to see be more proactive. I think you also should target businesses by 3 broad categories. One is to go hell-bent for election on the green businesses, the healthcare, the high-tech, all that kind of stuff that we really want, and spend all our time there. You got the other category, things like fast food restaurants and stuff. They come and go just based on population and area and stuff, so you don't really need to give them any special attention. And the third category, I think, is things like hookah lounges and massage parlors and stuff. I think we should discourage them.
Thank you.
And thank you all for what you do, but do more, please. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes those that have signed up for public comment for items not on the agenda from Troy residents and businesses. There are no council referrals. Advanced. Next is council comments. Council comments this evening? Just a comment. I don't know if City Manager Kishnick would like to respond, but to the proactive suggestion, I think our city manager is being very proactive, and maybe you could talk about a couple things coming forward that are part of what Mr. Werpetinsky was talking about, revisiting goals, doing a retreat to look at some goals and objectives for the city, and I'll give you an opportunity if you want.
Okay, sure. It's and he makes very good points, and I think everyone knows over the past year what we tried to do was do some team building and try to figure out what the strategies were, because the vision was there. The Vision 2020 document, we reviewed the Zucker report and all the studies that had been done over the past, let's just say 3, 4, 5 years, and try to synthesize those, do the Troy story itself, identify the strategies so that we had a focus last year. Now the idea with the council and the staff is to come together as a team at a retreat, which is what you approved tonight, which is which is an opportunity to build the team, identify the strategies and the vision and the strategies to go forward for the next year, 2 or 3, before we do the budget. Because we're always talking about the budget, and I think we've proven that over the past year. We've probably had, I can't even count how many sessions we've had on financial planning and budgeting and AAA bond rating and trying to establish within the vision of the framework what the strategies, what our objectives were going to be. And that's what we will be doing. Now, it's complicated just a little bit with the master plan process, right? Because when you think about the master plan, which has to be updated every 5 years, that we were discussing that night, it has some specific components to what your community wants to look like. So the real trick for staff and council as we go forward is to mesh those two together and make it all become one, but a larger document about where we're going, not just planning and zoning. So I hope that helps, but that's what we aim to do over the next, certainly a busy 2 months coming up.
I think you can tell, and there's even some excitement about doing that. Thank you. Any other comments from council?
Mayor?
Councilman Hoderick.
I wanted to point out that it was a proactive step for us to come together with Planning Commission to start the dialogue going into the review of the master plan. Sometimes the meetings that you see and whatnot, you don't have a complete sense of the background that went into that, and I can't take credit for being proactive on that because I'm new, I'm the freshman council member, but I'm stepping in and watching what leadership is doing. And what I saw was leadership stepping up together to work proactively on some of the challenges that we have with our master plan, especially as the economy starts to build back out. So it probably doesn't look very fast or very prominent to anyone just watching us, but I find myself continuously excited about the steps I see leadership taking, and am stepping in as a leader, trying to support that as best I can, educating myself, becoming as familiar with their inner workings, everything from understanding where does our fund balance need to be and how do we protect the bond rating, to what do we want Troy to look like, to listening to a cyclist come with very fair ideas that you're not the only person that has brought those thoughts and factoring them all in. We have really solid leadership on the Planning Commission. And yes, we invite input. You can email us. Part of the master plan process, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the public is invited to be engaged in that. And that will be communicated in the newspapers and communicated here to invite people to that. So, well said, Mr. Werpetinsky. Those are great comments. You're on point. And there is a lot bubbling that's very proactive. We have to get our ducks in a row as we work together and mesh all these things. And there is a lot of good stuff going on. So thank you for those thoughts.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Are there any comments about the reports that were in the agenda this evening? Next is public comment for items on or not on the agenda from members of the public outside of Troy, non-residents of Troy, and not from Troy businesses. I see Lee Todd has signed up to speak. If you would come forward. Good evening. If you could just speak into the microphone, please.
I will. I have a handout if I can.
If you could give it to the clerk, please. We do have a 3-minute time.
I understand. Thank you. I'll try to be brief. My name's Lee Todd. I'm the managing partner at Centerbrook Mortgage. And next week we're holding what I hope will be an exciting and informative seminar here in Troy at the Troy Community Center at 3179 Livernois in Troy. It's going to be at from 6 to 8 p.m. There will be some hors d'oeuvres and refreshments served. And we're flying in an expert from North Carolina from Maverick Funding to speak about reverse mortgages. It's going to be a free seminar offered for primarily for Troy residents. We're putting on 3 seminars, but this is our first one. It's going to be in Troy. You can't watch TV nowadays without seeing a commercial from Fred Thompson or others about reverse mortgages, and there's a reason for it. The reverse mortgages have changed drastically over recent years. Reverse mortgages were introduced to the market several decades ago, and when they were poorly designed, they were very misunderstood, seniors were taken advantage of. It was a poor program. It was not well received by anyone. And they went through a lot of years where they weren't used. The programs have been revamped, I'm happy to say, and they've been changed over the years to become a very safe and attractive tool. And in this economy, I think we find a lot of seniors in a position of not realizing what they expected from their home equity, from their retirement funds, from their pension funds. And reverse mortgages are becoming very popular, especially in places like California, which is where a lot of trends start, as an additional tool for seniors to use in realizing what they aren't realizing from their investments. One of the ways to improve their situation is to take advantages of the new, better reverse mortgages. For those not familiar with reverse mortgages, I'm going to save most of it for the seminar, and hopefully we'll entice some people to come. But I did want to mention just a couple of really quick points. You need to be 62 or over to take advantage of a reverse mortgage, and you need to have 40% equity in your home. With that said, almost anything else goes. What most people don't know is that you can also purchase a home on a reverse mortgage, as well as refinancing your existing home, again, providing you have 40% equity or close to it. Whether you do a reverse mortgage on your existing home or on a purchase, there are no income requirements, no asset requirements, no employment requirements. You don't even have to have a job. There's no credit score requirements, no health requirements. The home equity is what supports the reverse mortgage. On a reverse mortgage, you have no payments, which is one of the reasons that purchasing on a reverse mortgage is attractive, because you can buy a house and not have a payment. Unlike the original reverse mortgages, you retain ownership and you retain equity in the home. The proceeds are tax-free and can be used for any purpose that you want.
Mr. Todd, thank you very much.
Can I mention the address 3179 Livernois in Troy, again, from 6 to 8 at the Troy Community Center?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes those that have signed up for comments on items not from members of of Troy. There are no study items this evening, no closed session, so we are adjourned.